Hello everybody! Richard Owen here from Supercars.net. Today we are going to review the GT40s from the 2013 Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance. But first, I have to mention a couple words about the show. This is the 18th annual concours held every March at Amelia Island, Florida. Founder Bill Warner, along with his capable team and the many volunteers, run the event as a charity that benefits the community hospice of Northeast Florida. It's this contribution that attracts some of the best people and cars in the world. Have a look at the incredible selection of GT40s on the lawn. Reunited are the four Gulf JWA GT40s that made the orange and blue paint scheme so famous. These were the final GT40s that raced in 1967 through 1969. Together, they won first overall at Sebring, Spa, Le Mans, and Brands Hatch. Drivers Jackie Ickx, Jackie Oliver, David Hobbs, and Brian Redmond regularly drove them. But before we get too carried away, let's begin our deep dive with some of the earliest GT40s from Amelia. And here comes the oldest, chassis number GT104. It was the fourth prototype built and was completed in June of 1964 for Team Ford. This is the same car which Gooding & Company recently sold for $4,950,000 at their 2012 Pebble Beach auction. Initially, Ford Motor Company campaigned GT104 in the 1964 24 Hours of Le Mans. Here it is wearing number 12 at that very race, as driven by Joe Schlesser or Richard Atwood. For 1965, Ford handed this car over to Shelby to prepare it for the 1965 Daytona Continental. Subsequently, they painted it as you see here, Shelby blue with broad stripes and Hellebrand wheels. Here's some shots of its sister car, which won the 2,000-kilometer race outright. A year after racing with Shelby, Carcraft restored GT104 for Ford, and they kept it in their collection until 1971. More recently, the car was restored again by Paul Lazante in England in its original Daytona configuration. It is currently the second oldest surviving GT40.
Bob Bondurant drove that car. Bob?
Next, we have another prototype, GT108. This is one of only 4 prototype roadsters built in 1965, and it is the only roadster that survives in its original configuration with its original body. GT108 was never raced in period, but it did do extensive testing of the ZF transaxle, which became standard on the production models. This car comes to Amelia from the impressive Cavallino Holdings collection near Seattle, Washington. Here I am getting in the frame and the resulting image. Now, we progress into the production cars which formally adopted the name GT40. Here is chassis GT40P 1036. It was built as a production race car and sold to Shell Oil. Shell used 4 GT40s, including 1036, for promotional purposes. At Amelia, the car still appears immaculate from its Racing Icons restoration from over 20 years ago. While the current paint scheme is not period correct to any point in time, it is a modern tribute to both Shell and Shelby.
What a class of GT40s we had.
Our second production GT40 is GTP 1049. This car was pivotal to the Gulf GT40 partnership. It was first delivered to Grady Davis, an executive of the Gulf Oil Corporation. After achieving some remarkable results in SCCA, Davis later approached JWA for a full-fledged motorsports program in 1967. 1049 was then used by JWA at Daytona in the early Gulf paint scheme you see here. At Amelia, the car was shown by the Collier Collection, who actively race it under their Revs Institute program. 1049 was fully restored by Racing Icons back to its original 1967 Daytona livery. This is the exact appearance the car had when Dick Thompson and Jackie Ickx won their class at Daytona. GT40P 1072 is the last road specification Mark I GT40. In the late 1960s, it was actively used by its first owner, John Cousins, for over 20 hill climbs. By 1994, this car joined the Bill Marriott collection, where it still resides. The only Mark II GT40 at Amelia was chassis X GT3. This is one of 3 427 cars built specifically for Alan Mann to enter in the 1966 24 Hours of Le Mans. XGT3 was a spare car and subsequently did not race the event. Later, it was shipped to the USA and used for display only. As such, it is probably the most original of the 13 Mark II GT40s. XGT3 rarely gets out, so it was a great treat to finally see it at Amelia.
The car the editors of Road Track would most like to drive home. Maybe with some new spark plugs.
Here is chassis GT M3 1103. It's one of 7 road cars made by JWA to Mark III specification. This included higher headlights and a longer tail section compared to the competition cars. Under the hood, they had a storage bin, single Holley carburetor, and full exhaust. Recently, 1103 was sympathetically restored after sitting in the British National Motor Museum for nearly 3 decades. With only 6,400 miles from new, CKL Developments returned 1103 back to original specification, including new wire wheels and its maroon paint scheme. James Glickenhaus was kind enough to bring along GT40 Mark IV chassis J6. This is one of 2 cars prepared by Shelby American for the 1967 24 Hours of Le Mans. Drivers Bruce McLaren and Mark Donohue were leading the race when they lost the rear body panel. Precious time was lost strapping down the hood in the pits. This let the red number 1 car by, which won the race outright. Glickenhaus has since road registered the car in New York and has driven it over 40,000 miles on public roads. Here he is leaving the awards ceremony in style. Here comes Mirage M1 chassis number 1. While Ford was dominating at Le Mans with their Mark IVs, Gulf JWA was just getting started. They prepared a lightweight version of the GT40 called the Mirage M1. Here is chassis number 1 at Le Mans, where you can clearly see its distinct roofline. Gulf JWA built 3 of these cars for the 1967 season and won at Spa, Montlhéry, and Kyalami. This car is the only one that still features its original Mirage bodywork. It has been a mainstay of the Blackhawk collection for several years. Here is Mirage number 3. It was converted into Mark I specifications for 1968 and relabeled GT40P 1074. That year, it won the Monza 1000 km race with drivers David Hobbs and Paul Hopkins. It currently appears as it did when it won that race. Last year, RM Auctions had the distinction of offering this car at Pebble Beach. Just how much is one of 3 Gulf GT40s worth? $11 million US. This is the final Gulf JWA GT40 built on chassis 1076. It was completed in September of 1968 and it ran alongside 2 converted Mirages. Here it is at the 1969 Le Mans where it placed 3rd overall. Recently, the car was immaculately restored by racing icons for owner Harry Yeagy. The result is a stunning showpiece that is likely the most impressive GT40 restoration of all time.
Thank you, Harry. Best in class, a David Hobbs race car.
Okay, we have saved the best for last. This is GT40P 1075, the most significant GT40 of all time. It's also one of the most important race cars in the world. That's because it has the distinction of winning the 24 Hours of Le Mans twice. First in 1968 with Pedro Rodriguez and Lucien Bianchi, then in 1969 with Jackie Ickx and Jackie Oliver. The 1969 victory was the closest in Le Mans history, with the chasing Porsche 908 only seconds behind. At Amelia, 1075 was honored with Best of Show. Edsel Ford II himself was on hand to award it as the most significant GT on the field.
In our seminar yesterday, Edsel, somebody said they remembered you being there as a teenager watching these cars mop up on the Ferrari.
It was the first race I ever went to with my father, and I was 18 years old, and I remember standing with him and looking at these cars in awe, and they're just as beautiful today as they were when I was a young boy.
Very special, very, very special. Thank you, gentlemen.
This concludes our coverage of the GT40s at the 2013 Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance. Thanks for watching.